every morning in the first phase of training, we had an inspection. And in my class, we had 4 officers, and you saw that picture, that barracks that was there. We were on the 3rd floor of that barracks. And every morning, the instructors would come in. And again, this is 1977. All the instructors are Vietnam vets. They're these kind of crusty old senior chiefs and master chiefs. And you would have to kind of pop to. And the first thing they would do is they would inspect your uniform. You had this 8-sided hat, had to be perfectly starched. Your uniform had to be perfectly starched. You had a brass belt buckle. It had to shine with no fingerprints. You had to have spit shined your boots to the point where the instructors could wiggle their fingers up here and see the reflection in the boots. And then when they got through inspecting your uniform, they would inspect your bed. In Navy parlance, your rack. And the bed was very simple, steel frame bed, but the bed had to be made to exacting standards. You had a pillow that had to be centered right in the middle of the headboard. You had a sheet and a wool blanket that had to be pulled tight. You had to have 45-degree hospital corners. You had a second blanket that had to be folded into a perfect rectangle and placed perfectly at the foot of the bed. And then invariably, some young enterprising instructor would reach into their pocket, pull out a quarter, flip it into the air to see if it would bounce off the bed to make sure that you had made the bed tautly enough. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't get it. I mean, I came here to be a battle-hardened Navy SEAL, and I'm spending all my time making this bed. Well, as the days and the weeks and the months went on, I finally got up enough courage to talk to one of these old instructors. And he thought about it for a second when I posed the question. I said, look, I understand the uniform. I mean, we're in the military. Uniform's got to look good. But why do we spend so much time making our bed? He thought about it, and he said, well, if you make your bed every morning and you take a little pride in doing it, it will inspire you to do another task and another and another. And he said, the other thing about making your bed is if you can't even make your bed to exacting standards, how are we ever going to trust you to lead a complex SEAL mission? Learn to do the little things right, and you'll learn to do the big things right. And I carried that philosophy with me for the rest of my career. I made my bed on ships and on submarines. I made it on shore duty. Wherever I was, every morning I would get up and I would make my bed. But when I got into war in Iraq and Afghanistan, the bed took on another meaning. And in Afghanistan, I was the second-ranking officer in Afghanistan. I was a 3-star admiral, and I lived in what was referred to as a B hut, made by the Navy Seabees. And the B hut was, probably about from where these 2 water bottles are, about this big. It was just a plywood room the Seabees had made. Again, I'm a 3-star admiral, and in that room was a bed. That was it. The bathrooms were outside, no shelves, just a bed. And so every morning I would, get up, I'd go to the gym, I'd work out, I'd come back, and I would make my bed. Because I knew when I opened the plywood door and walked out into the environment that was Afghanistan, it was going to be difficult. It was going to be challenging. Everything about life in a combat zone is challenging. We would lose soldiers in the course of a week. Civilians would be innocently killed on a strike. Some general, some admiral, somebody was yelling at me about something every single day. And your days were long. I mean, your average day was probably 18 or 20 hours a day, and sometimes you went days before you got back to your room. But when I did get back to my room, and I opened that plywood door, my bed was made. The room was clean. It gave me some sense of control of my life in a very, very difficult time. So I tell folks, look, it ain't hard, but if you want to have a successful day, start off by making your bed.